Good afternoon. It is the 12th of December, 2023. I'm going to continue work on my drive shaft here. At the end of yesterday's video, I mentioned I found some unexpected damage in the center part of the drive shaft, which I wish I had noticed before I put this piece on, because I'm not taking that back off. The damage has to do right in here. You can see the part where the centering yoke goes into is no longer round. It's supposed to be round, at least I think it is, in order for the center yoke here, which is round, to fit into nicely. And I think that's what was preventing me from pushing that centering yoke in far enough so I could get the side caps on for the U-joint. So I'm going to attempt to straighten that out somehow. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that yet. I might just use some kind of flat punch or something with a curve in it to maybe um, round that out a little bit, or I might even use the centering yoke itself carefully, just hitting on it with a hammer, a soft hammer, see if that might be able to push it back out. Not really sure how that damage occurred. Might have happened when I was using the sledgehammer to get this thing apart. Who knows? But that's where I'm going to start today. We'll see how I do. All right, quick little update. I've made some progress here. It turns out the parts that I was concerned about actually are pretty malleable. I was able to just pry them out with this pry bar to get them pretty round again. It actually looks pretty good. That went a lot easier than I thought it would. I also am going to once again try the zip tie. I'm just not going to tighten it nearly as much, just enough that it won't fall out, because when I had this out, one of the bearings inside, the needle bearings, had fallen over, so I had to dig through all that grease with some tweezers and find it again. So now all the bearings are back in place again. So now once again, I'm going to attempt to place this on the shaft there and then tie it down with the zip tie, not tying it too tight, just tight enough to keep it from falling off. And then I'll attempt to put the second U-joint on there again. And I did pick up another one this morning at Advanced Auto Parts, along with a couple of gallons of antifreeze concentrate. All right, so now the centering yoke is in place, held on loosely by the zip tie, not too tight, so it moves freely without falling out. So I'm hoping that that'll help me. I'm going to move this off to the side a little bit, and I can just reach in there later with some side cutters to cut that off when I'm done with it. So next comes a U-joint, which I just it's sitting over here. I already had it out, so it's just a matter of putting the U-joint in place, and I'll put the two ends here have to go first on the centering yoke, and then you put the other ones in, and I have to make sure the little grease fitting there is facing outward too. So that's what I'm working on right now. All right, I'm almost done reassembling this rear, or actually it's the front CV joint. This part worked out really well. I was able to straighten up the sloppiness inside there. So now the centering spool goes in like it's supposed to. It's being held with that zip tie, although now at this point it's not necessary. I really just turned the camera on, zoomed in, so you can see how easily these caps go in. This is just a C-clamp right now that I'm using, and it just goes in like butter, like nothing. So it's like, wow, that's nice there, when it works like that. So I'm almost done. I just have this one cap to put in deep enough so I can get the last retaining clip in there, and then this front joint will be done. And then with all the heartache and lessons that I had from rebuilding this one, I should be able to apply to the rear joint, and it should go a lot smoother and a lot faster than what it took me to do this rear one here. This was a pain in the butt. But now that I've kind of learned my lessons and realized what I did wrong, I should have a much easier time of it. I'm still not, still don't have quite the right tools here, as this is trying to slip and slide on me while I'm trying to push it in the rest of the way. There it goes. Okay. Just got to get it in deep enough for the clip to lock in there, the locking clip. So that hopefully is enough. My poor socket. Yeah, it looks like it should be. That last locking clip in there. And those pliers have been working great for this part of it. Just put that in there like so. Kaboom. We are done. This CV joint is now done. I just have to cut that little zip tie off from inside there before it'll move freely, but it's done. So success at last. And now I'm going to flip it over and do the rear CV joint. All right, with my newfound experience with the front CV joint, which you see here, got the zip tie off, and now this thing moves very nicely. It's very pretty. I just realized that I still haven't bought the Zerk fitting attachment for my grease gun, so I'm gonna buy that and make sure I grease this thing up really good on both ends. And I've started. I flipped it around. Now the rear CV joint is sitting here, and it's really rusty. This one's really corroded and dirty, so I have a feeling this is going to be an even bigger challenge to get apart than the front one was, but we'll see how I do. I've already taken all the old clips out, and I'm spraying each quadrant with PB Blaster. I'm just going to let that sit for about 15 or 20 minutes aside and rotate it and do the next set and keep going until I get all the way around before I even attempt to start removing those U-joints. In the meantime, I'll do some other things, like I'm going to put a quart or two of oil into the crankcase and the engine. I want to check the oil plug. I just remembered I haven't made sure that plug is tight, so never mind. I got to wait for the ground to dry out before I crawl underneath the car to do something. So never mind on that. I'll find some things to do while this is soaking. One of the next projects I'm hoping to do is to rebuild this carburetor. That's a good indoor project to do when the weather's cold outside. I got a nice rebuild kit from a place called Carbs Unlimited. They're out of Sumner, Washington, which is not far from Seattle, Washington, if you're familiar with Washington State anyway, western side of the state. One thing, this came from a 66 Lincoln. It had a steel line for the vacuum advance, which I'm converting to the rubber hose because my new vacuum advance for the distributor that I've ordered accepts a rubber hose only. So I needed some kind of adapter here so I could put a rubber hose on it. So the same company has this fitting that I'm very hopeful will fit right in there and just work. So I'm going to open this up now and see if it goes in there or not. Otherwise, I threw away some money again. Hold on a second here. All right, opening the package. It's a small fitting, so I don't want to lose it. Here we go. All right, you get to try this with me. So, whoops, the carburetor falling off. All right, here we go. Let's see if this screws in there or not. Let's see if I get lucky. Oh my gosh, would you look at that? It actually fits. Woohoo! So just like that, I now have a fitting on the carburetor that will accept a rubber hose, which will go to the vacuum advance on the distributor once I get to that point. So, and like I said, this is a very nice kit. They use the stamp number that's on the base of the carburetor to make sure it was the right kit, and they have a very extensive listing on that website. It's very impressive if you've never heard of them before. And it's got all kinds of goodies in the sealed bag here with instructions, everything I need to rebuild that carburetor. So that'll be a fun project when I get around to that. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but after the second attempt, I did finally get my carburetor parts cleaner. Now I just got to figure out where I set it. I thought it was here. Oh, there it is. It's standing right on it. Right there. A lot less expensive buying it on Amazon, but the first one came empty because it leaked and made a mess. So I returned that empty can, and they sent me another one, which is beat up, but at least it wasn't leaking. So I have that now, the carburetor parts cleaner. So it's been decades since I've taken a carburetor apart, but as long as you stay organized, work in a clean area and all that, it'll be fine. And I also bought a little cleaning kit that has tiny little brushes to get into all the passengers and all that. So I didn't never even had that before. So looking forward to that. All right, I think it's about time to rotate that drive shaft 90 degrees to spray some more PB Blaster on the next set of universal joint caps. I found a good little task here to do while my drive shaft is soaking with PB Blaster. You may have noticed that I had the chains attached to the intake manifold bolts when I was lifting the engine and putting it in here and whatnot, so I need to retorque those down. So according to my shop manual, the intake manifold torque is 20 to 25 foot-pounds, and then there's a tightening sequence too, which is on a different page in the manual. So I will follow that sequence to the best of my ability. The only one that I really can't access in that sequence is this one right here under the water tank. I might be able to get to it with the universal joint, but I think that just kind of throws the torque off. I'll try an extension bar. That might actually work. But anyway, I'm going to do that right now. That shouldn't take too long. All right, so that was easy. I just followed the sequence, and 20 to 25 foot-pounds is really not that tight. So that part's done. Another step in the process. Well, folks, once again, I am stuck. Getting this rear CB joint apart is a pain in the butt. All I've managed to do so far, I soaked everything with PB Blaster for at least 15 minutes in every bore, and I did manage to get two of the caps on the same side protruding, but no matter what I do, I just cannot get them out of there, and I've got to be able to get them out before I can finish disassembling. Um, so I don't even know what to do. I don't know if I should, I don't think I should use heat because that would just expand things. I think that would make it worse. I even thought about getting my grinder and just cutting that baby off of there, but that might make it worse because then I might have the other piece still stuck in the bore with no way to get it out. So I don't know. Open to ideas if you have any ideas. I mean, I'll eventually get it done. It's just I'm getting kind of wore out now. Um, I did get the intake manifold bolts torqued down on the engine out in the yard, and I attached some more transmission to engine bolts. So I did do a couple things out there. And the front joint, CB joint, is perfect. I finally got that baby back together. So the hard part's getting it apart. So this one is very nice. No problems. You know, well, there were problems along the way, but I did get it done. But until I can get this one apart, that's the hard part. I'm just having a heck of a time. So I'll try a little bit longer this evening before I give up, but I'm running out of steam and I gotta get a good night's sleep. I got a long day of work tomorrow and probably the next day. So this may be my wrap up for the day. Lord have mercy. I got one off. Kept banging at it and twisting at it with the pliers and it finally broke loose. My goodness, that was hard. Still got to get that one off too, but this is a start. I might be able to get this whole piece off and just leave all that attached and work on it in a different way, but finally, this is hard. This is the first time I've had one of these disassembled this way, where the centering yoke was actually still attached to the cage or whatever you call that. So I did manage to get it off of this part. So ever so slowly, I'm making progress. All right, at long last, I have this one completely disassembled now. What a pain in the butt. Here's all the pieces. Everything is apart. I did have a minor catastrophe. Hopefully I was able to recover from it. I wasn't paying attention, and I had this on in the vise, separating it from the collar here, and forgot about the needle bearings that are inside. And it's pretty dry, so they weren't really being held in place. So they started falling out. I caught most of them in my hand, but a couple of them landed on the ground down there in that gravel. I did recover two, and I count a total of 33 that I've got in this jar. So I'm hoping that's all of them. If it's not, I'm going to be on my hands and knees again, moving that pallet out of the way until I find whatever might be missing. I mean, I could just buy a whole new replacement, but like I said in a previous video, those suckers are expensive, and this one seems to be just fine. So as I reassemble it, I will figure out. I mean, I can just put the needle bearings back in place, and if I have a gap, then I know I'm missing one or more. So hopefully that's not the case. I'm going to see if there's somewhere online that says how many needle bearings are supposed to be in there. I kind of doubt it, but who knows. So in the meantime, I still have some energy. I've got some renewed energy now that I finally got all this apart. I'm going to at least get one U-joint started in this section right here and continue on from there. I notice this part here is in better shape than the other end was when I took it apart. So I don't see anything that I need to straighten out or put curvature back in, because this fits in just fine like it's supposed to, and the spring is still there. So anyway, as before, as I learned from the other end of the drive shaft, I'm going to put a cap in first most of the way, in fact all the way, well, most of the way, and then I can thread kind of the U-joint up into it, and then I'll put the other one in. That seemed to work pretty good on the other end, so that's where I'm picking up knowledge or experience, I guess. All right, making progress. The new U-joint is now in place. It's got the clips, the retaining clips on both sides. I did a little filing inside the bore of these, clean up the rust a little bit, and then I used Vaseline again. That seems to help a lot as far as getting these pressed in, and it's nice and stiff, like it should be as a new U-joint. It also cleaned up around here. Like I said, this piece is in good shape. It's not warped like it was on the other end. So there's nothing to repair there. So the next step is to get the collar in place, and I will clean up the bores on those too, even though those are generally pretty easy to use, and I'll put some Vaseline on those too, and then that'll sit right on top of there. So coming along.